lots of kid related conversations come up in the last little bit. Had one long talk with a guy after an event. He ended up coming by and he was talking about how he volunteered at a grade 1 or preschool maybe? No, I think it was grade 1. Grade 1 seems a bit old. The kids were just learning how to read or like write in numbers and stuff. So like they had flashcards of different pieces of information or whatever, and he would show them, and then if they got one wrong, they never got it wrong a second time because they were just so good at absorbing information. So it'd be like, well, they got it wrong once, and then they go again, and there's like no anything in them except they're there to learn. So they didn't care if they were right or wrong; they would just always get it right, and just that freeformness. But after he went there a bunch, his term, whatever it was, like his little task that he was supposed to do for his post-secondary school of going to take care of these kids or like help out t-shirts with these kids, he just kept going back because he said it was awesome, and it like revitalized his love of learning and his creativity, and he like realized that, you know, he used to be like that. How am I not like that? How do I be like that? It just like reframed the way that he would approach his own work just because of being around these kids, and he stopped doing it eventually. You know, after a year, the teachers all switched classes and all that sort of stuff, and you know, it'd be weird if we just kept going for every teacher from then on. But that it perfectly lined up with all the things of like how it's great to bring a bunch of kids into a place with a bunch of old people, and just like the vitality that comes out of both the kids and the old people mixing together and all that every time, and why it's so good to have almost like the spread of ages from anything, like just a typical classroom really should have an elder in it and a kid in it and like everybody between, like the segmenting of worlds. Like I remember a guy at our bakery who we played D&D with too. He was talking about how at one point somebody came to work at the bakery who was kind of around his age, and like they were only there for a few months and then left. I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about how it was so cool to have somebody at his stage of life who has gone through some of the things that he did and things like that. But then I started to talk to him about how he, not having that, he has had perspectives into all sorts of other different types of lives and all sorts of other framings, like just to meet somebody like our boss at the bakery, or the other staff members there who are moving around, or like some older lady that comes and works for a couple months and then goes off and does like to a restaurant or something, so she's living there for a bit. Like all that spread would, if we had that spread everywhere all the time, then it would not be like, he wouldn't have to say something like, it's nice to find somebody who was, you know, at my phase of life or anything, because everybody's phase of life would be constantly shuffling all over the place. Like to actually make that distinction of like, yeah, 14-year-old, all 14-year-olds go through the same 14-year-old something. If we mix them with everybody, then everybody else would also understand the perspective of the 14-year-old. So all the problems that people think, oh, teenagers, they have issues or something. Well, if you were around them more and we didn't hide them away in boxes, then we would get them better, and we would get where we came from more, like all that stuff. It's just a interesting revelation in my advocacy for having all generations of all ages and worlds mixing, and like all the diversity is the best.